Hello everyone and welcome. This video is mainly intended for the general public because often when we hear about a transfer, we have the stereotype. We think that Club A will call Club B because it wants a player and at best it will negotiate with the agent to discuss the contract, obviously the salary and bonuses. Except that in reality, it doesn't happen like that at all. And as the years go by, more and more people are involved in the deals. And this, we know there are agents, intermediaries, sometimes there are other people we don't really know. There's the family, and it's often a bit abstract, and we have trouble understanding how a transfer happens. So what I'm going to say, be careful. It's not for all transfers. There are clubs that work well. There are also differences according to certain countries and everything. But we will speak globally about the system currently in Europe, and we will stop there. There is no longer a single agent. Today, it is an agent who works with collaborators. Some may call them touts, others might say deal makers or a legal team. In any case, there is a whole structure around the agent's profession. It's very rare today to have an agent alone. Normally, he is accompanied by several people. And the goal of the agent, because you tell me, is that in the transfer, because there are three parties in the end, you obviously have the buying club, the selling club, and in the middle, you have the player, okay? So that makes three elements to consider. Yes, we'll bring out the table so that people understand a little better. So normally we agree that the player who belongs to there, he has to go over there. Okay? I remind everyone, the agent normally collects from the player's salary with respect to the contract years. Okay? Except that obviously, and this is why I'm talking to you right now about agents and money, transfers are not primarily done for sporting reasons, meaning scoutings and so on. It doesn't really work. It's very rare. Today you have some transfers still made through the recruitment department and all that. There is a normal process. Most transfers are done on the agent's suggestion. That is, it's a WhatsApp message sent where you send a profile from Transfermarkt. That's the majority of deals today. I know it may seem strange, but it's the truth. And why do I say it's a question of money? It's that yes, there's sports involved, at least a minimum. But how much will I get, etc. There are plenty of deals that are not for that. The goal, obviously, for the agent's company is to recover both on the sale and the purchase. And in addition, obviously, to the player's contract, meaning being on three sides. So now you will tell me, but that's not really legal. Careful, don't panic. So, for example, according to the regulations of the French Football Federation, the double mandate does not exist. That means you can't normally, if you have the player, also have the sale or purchase mandate, except that in fact, you will arrange it. Either you will backdate certain things or actually use a nominee from other structures, meaning in fact that it's a friend of yours or perhaps a collaborator of yours or who knows what else, who will open another structure. In fact, you are partners in a way, except that you cannot say partner. That it doesn't necessarily show on paper. He will get the mandate for you. Knowing that afterwards, there are many things. We could talk about Reda Amash, for example, the sports director who just arrived in Cannes, right? When a player signed, etc. I do remember there was always a small mandate that went to 10%, but well, it's not a big deal, Reda. We can talk about it again. It's not just you, rest assured. So actually, that's already important. It's the idea of saying, okay, we will recover from everywhere, and then you will tell me, but these agents, really, it's terrible. But actually, I'm not going to blame the agents. Already, clubs operate from a... That is to say that sometimes there are recruitment sales and such. Sometimes it works, you know. Take, for example, Baptiste Favier, the recruiter who urged Lens to go for Coussonov. He insisted, then relayed to Gregory Etienne. I believe he was responsible for the recruitment sale, and he took up the file again. He had followed him from the Youth World Cup, knowing that originally he had scouts at a Youth Asian Cup, and there it worked, for example. Okay. Very well, except often actually, the recruiter's opinions don't really matter. There are fewer and fewer, let's say, data is prioritized and all that, and especially who has decision-making power. And why? You might ask, why do I talk so much about agents, mandates and all that? It's quite simple. Today an agent alone doesn't exist anymore, meaning there are many people around him. That is to say, this same agent, let's say licensed by the French Football Federation, who has the FIFA license or whatever, has with him, I remind you, collaborators, so guys who will work with him on the deals, exactly. He also has what we call business introducers. So some will say that they're recruiters. They are the ones who will handle the deals, meaning sometimes it's a cousin, sometimes an uncle, the father, the brother, the sister, a friend, etc. Because you have players who always live with someone and all, and those guys will take a share of the commission. That is to say, why does the agent sometimes want to get involved everywhere? It's because, in fact, today, there are more and more people to pay, whom he will later compensate for what is called keeping the player. So actually, you have that. And at the same time, okay, you are the agent. So your player, he wants to leave. Okay, except, well, you don't necessarily have leads and all that. You know, it's a bit complicated. There, it's not the selling club that's going to call you. No, it's the agents. Except actually, well, you have the contact, let's say, of a certain sports director. Someone gave you the number. Already the guy who gave you the number, he's going to say to you, hey, bro, don't forget me, okay? You know, that kind of thing. What does that mean? It basically means he wants what's called an introduction. Like he wants to get his little something at the end. But it might be that the sporting director will never respond to you because he doesn't know you. So actually, because these are people who are also harassed, who are really overwhelmed, I mean on their WhatsApp, their Signal, we can imagine everything they might receive in a day. Sometimes they won't respond, they'll only reply to their trusted person. So actually, the agent's goal, besides having the business finders, collaborators and everything you want, well, to move from the selling club to the buying club, they'll have to call on another agent themselves, who actually knows the people from the buyer's club and knows influential people, where he will, so to speak, make a deal with him, and that guy will also get a percentage. Knowing that this guy can very well say, no problem, I will take over the mandate of that club, that is to say, I will get between 5 and 10% of the sale or purchase. So actually, we get to this point, except sometimes the guy tells you, no, actually it's not me, I know another guy. And so basically, you don't know how close you are to the decision-making power. And sometimes you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, because in addition you have an agent, but he also has his collaborators, etc. So that's why sometimes you end up with 7, 8, 10 people, because in fact you have the intermediary, the business introducer, the family, the collaborator, the agent, the one who holds the license. Suppose he doesn't have the license. Well, he will find a frontman who has the license. Then you will move from point A to point B. And sometimes you have to involve other people. Many people, sometimes those you don't necessarily expect, but who have influence and all, actually it goes very, very far, very quickly. And that's why actually the deal, it is sometimes there are as many people and it's just as problematic. And also why today we said, okay, since we have to pay everyone, we're going to try to recover from the buyer, the seller, the player and all. You'll tell me, in this interest, what does the player decide? I'm very surprised because we'll take the case. From Chahir Belghazuni, I might be pronouncing it wrong. He's a former player from Grenoble. Officially, he's a business introducer. Now, we'll laugh about business introducer. He's a guy with an ego. It's not just oversized, it's worse than that. Meaning he's a guy who wants to be in all the photos, right? Because there's that too, obviously. You've seen in the signings now, there are 50,000 people wondering who he is. So this Chahir, he works mainly for Vadim Vassiliev, former executive of Monaco, who has his agent company, VV Consulting, etc. And so he had notably brought in Jordan Verretout and other players. Except that, in fact, this guy has a decision-making power in the lives of the players that is different. That is to say, when I say the players don't make decisions, it's crazy. Already the number of guys who are married, whatever you want, but who also live with their friends, who actually live off them, etc. Often with these guys, what happens is that you have the agent who pays them afterwards, because they are the ones who benefit. There you have it. They are courtiers. If another agency gives more, the guy will go there. So in fact, it's to keep the player, once again. And what I find crazy is that you have this kind of ménage à trois, 4, 5, well anyway. Let's move on. But our friend Chahir, and here you will see, originally worked with Bilal Ghazi, a former journalist from L'Equipe, who now works with the Mbappé family. They had brought a few players to Vadim Bassiev, notably Boulaya, if I'm not mistaken, from the SMS. It did not end very well. But Sharif, he continued, as I tell you, you will become everything, but he has decision-making power over that guy. You wonder if the player really decides his own life, and the guy makes it clear to you. Basically, I decide everything. I am the boss. And so, the fellow Chahir, you understand? When I say they have egos, and sometimes it's complicated, no, you'll see everything. He wasn't in the picture in Marseille, but he cried. Chahir, he wasn't in the photo with Pablo Longoria, he cried, crybaby. The guy, oh man, Chahir, you cried because you weren't in the photo, huh, Chahir? Huh? So what did we do? We called Longoria back to take a photo afterward. You see these guys? Because afterward, they'll say, bro, did you see? In the photo, bro, did you see? I'm in control, huh? I'm something. You feel like laughing. Besides, very funny because when Vatou passes through Lyon, I think you had consulting the company that does the normal photo, and then they make a special one for Cher. Yes, because we must not disturb Mr. Cher, right? End of parentheses. But sometimes you have these kinds of characters in the middle. The photo, this and that. And so they will hold players with an outrageous decision-making power. I'm also talking about the influence, sometimes partners, families, etc. And actually you realize that in these transfers, the athlete already goes through. So you always have a little interest. But overall, it takes second, even third place. In fact, what matters is the business, meaning the selling club to the buying club. Now you might tell me, but don't the clubs talk to each other? Well, very rarely. That's what I still don't understand. So what's the point of a sports director if they're not able to pick up the phone and say to their counterpart at the other club, okay, no, is it in fact an agent who will bring the offer from the selling club, the buying club and so on? Why? Because we're still dealing with mandate issues. And behind it, obviously, there's some palm greasing. So I'll let you imagine. In terms of kickbacks, in terms of services, because the same, and I will pay you in cars and this and that, there are many ways to imagine that. We will come back one day to how people are paid, how people are compensated, how we try to optimize this fiscally, all the companies that are made, the nominees, finally. It's a slippery dog, a labyrinth. Good luck finding the exit. And so the clubs often do not talk to each other. So actually they go through agents. So we compensate them as well. So you might say it's not very logical because it makes the club lose money. Yes. Meaning that nowadays you have recruitment cells that are very rarely listened to. I am thinking particularly of France. You have sports directors who are often incompetent. But it's not bad, it's worse than that. Sometimes you don't know who makes the decisions, that is to say, the president might make transfers like in Rennes currently. It's Arnaud Pouy, a guy who doesn't know sport, at Lens. Now he's the one doing the transfers in Rennes a little. At the same time, initially, what happened was with Massard, which we can understand, but only good choices. We see in Rennes currently. Really, it's going well. And in the middle of all that, actually, well, the clubs rarely talk to each other. They will use agents or intermediaries who sometimes are appointed by other agents of the player. Similarly, I didn't explain, but when you know the sporting director and you know what he wants, or the guy who makes the decision, because you can also talk to the legal director. Yeah, but I know this person, but I know that person. That's why you also have 50,000 people, and that reliability doesn't exist. But basically, he will offer sports directors players who aren't his. So behind the scenes, he will contact the agent and everything. So there is also this way of doing transfers. And I will repeat, in everything I listed, you'll notice that I talk very little about football. So you still have clubs that work a bit with football. Who like that? Who will prioritize that? It exists. You have deals like that too. But often, it's a deal because I know so-and-so, I know another. And I will manage to reach the person in question. The person who has the decision-making power. Who's able to get you to the table. And I'm telling you, in fact, you often have people in single file. It might be 5, 6, 7. Sometimes we end up with 10 people on a deal. It's a bit of a mess and everyone tries to scrape like... Because indeed, transfers are becoming more and more expensive. We find that indeed, there are more and more commissions. But we especially have to share more and more with clubs that are often just bystanders and do things arbitrarily. Sometimes even cancelling a deal on purpose because they want to break the contract with a particular agent to place a friend of theirs and so on. With we imagine behind the scenes. Well, a compensation obviously, because nothing is free in the world of football. So I hope this helps you see things more clearly. I will obviously make a video, not now, but on how we compensate business finders or recruiters. Everyone will use the term they prefer. And let's say all the tricks, etc. Because I find it absolutely phenomenal, and I'll end on that note. If clubs work normally, there wouldn't be this chaos and things would happen much more naturally. But the problem is that often clubs want to go through people instead of what I call directly for reasons that escape me. But well, then when you see the way clubs are managed, like how everything is overpriced, you end up thinking that oh, this is a big joke. So there you go. I hope this helps you see a little more. And as I tell you, we will make other videos in the intricacies, let's say, of transfers to better understand the Schmilblick. With that, keep the faith.